friends, and welcome to the 5 Anime and Games that is the Taisen song. Last time I took a look at Super Robot Taisen Z for the PS2, and I gave it one of my lowest scores ever on the show. Yeah, to me this game just has way too many problems with its gameplay, as well as one of the most stupidly named anime mechs ever. I of course stand by my opinion, but at the same time, as I was writing that review, I felt like I wasn't providing a good enough argument to explain why I thought it was bad. And then I played some of today's review subject, and all of the problems of Z started to become a lot clearer, as this game pretty much fixed all of the major problems. As such, throughout this review, I'll probably do a lot of comparisons between this game and the last one, just to show how it could have been done right. So with that in mind, let's get right into it with Super Robot Taisen Z, the Hakai for the PSP. One of the few things that I actually did praise about the last game was that it had really good graphics and sound. I mean, it wasn't perfect, as I did think the battle animations were a tad bit stiff. But still, it did give the PS2 a good final push before the next generation of consoles came in and took over. From that, you'd assume that by moving such a strong game engine into smaller software, the presentation would suffer. Well, actually no. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but to me the battle animations here look better on the smaller PSP screen. The sprites are clearer, move smoother, are brighter, and some of the new animations are some of the best I've seen in this franchise. I think it looks better for two main reasons. The first being that the smaller screen allows the player to focus in more on the mechs, and as a result are able to appreciate some of the game's finer details. The second reason being that they've simplified and gotten rid of a lot of the frivolous content that was in the last game, thus allowing the animations to truly strut their stuff. I'll discuss more about what was removed when we get into gameplay, but most notably here, they've simplified the map rip down to just a cursor and some heads. Now, while graphical simplifications like these definitely hurt games like Persona 3 Portable, here, I think it was for the better. On top of giving us better battle animations, I don't think what was on the PS2 was anything to write home about anyway. Heck, the simpler over-the-top grid view makes it easier to navigate than a map where I have to sometimes adjust the camera angle. Yeah, a minor pet peeve of mine is being forced to deal with camera angles in my strategy RPGs. I'm looking at you, Disgaea 3! As for the music, it's pretty much the same deal here. As always, Jam Project is freaking awesome, though I'll admit, I won't be playing Noah on my iPhone anytime soon. Still, they were able to remix some of my personal favorite anime theme songs of all time. What songs am I talking about? Well, why don't we talk about them through the anime they were attached to in? Oh boy, I can hear all the Fujoshi screaming. Yep, this is the first Super Robot Taisen game to incorporate the series that popularized the concept of the 8th grade syndrome, Code Geass. And of course, while I do believe it is a great series and a fantastic addition to the Super Robot Taisen roster, the one that sticks out for me personally is this one. Oh yeah. Honestly, I thought that this series would be too awesome even for the Super Robot Taisen games, but here it is. In case you haven't been able to tell by my opening, I absolutely love Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, and these games are able to deliver it in its full glory. This game has it all. It has Yoko, it has Simon, and of course, most importantly, it has
the anti-spirals, of course.
Anti-Man, what are you doing here?
If you're going to talk about Gurren Lagann, then of course we have to be a part of it. After all, we are the greatest assets to that series.
Actually...
In fact, we're probably the toughest enemy in the game. No, better yet, we have to be the final boss. Of course, defeating us would be impossible, but that's just how...
You guys aren't in this game.
What?
Yeah, this game only covers about, the first half of Gurren Lagann up until the fight with Lord Genome.
Oh, come on! How could anyone expect this game to be any good if we're not in it?
Now calm down, man, calm down. Listen, if you were to appear now, you'd be selling yourselves way too short.
Selling ourselves short? Explain.
It's the whole idea behind an escalating conflict. You don't just start off with the strongest villain from the get-go. No. You start with the medium-sized bad guy and then begin to work your way up to the big guy. You see, this is just the second game in this line and the first one to feature Gren Lagann in it. If you were to appear now, you'd be treated like you were the Avengers Loki, and you wouldn't want that, believe me.
You might have a point.
Yeah, you have to let these games build you up as the big bad guy. That way you can be treated not as the Loki of this universe, but rather the big bad Thanos.
Yeah? Okay. We'll wait until the time is right.
That's the spirit. Now, as I was saying, this game...
Who's Thanos? And what does he have to do with the Trickster God?
Do you have a Netflix account?
Yeah?
Then go watch the Avengers and see for yourself.
Oh, okay.
And don't get mixed up with that stupid British TV series. So as I was saying, Gren Lagann's most important aspect is its great over-the-top action. And it's all here and is as awesome as ever. And unlike certain other over-the-top series, this is legitimately badass stuff, and not just embarrassing to look at. But then again, I don't mind Zabongo as much as I did in the last game. As I said, I thought some of their units were okay. Though, to be more exact, I thought that their main character mechs and pilots were their only good units. I thought all of the other supporting characters were just weak filler that I had to use in accordance with that stupid tri-battle system. But here, Zabongo as well as many of the returning Gundam series have had their rosters reduced down to just their main characters. And like the graphics, I think streamlining the roster was for the better. I mean, was there anyone out there pining for the return of cats from Zeta?
No, not really, no.
I thought not. To me, not only does this give more space for a new series like Gren Lagann, Code Geass, and Macross Frontier, as well as anime that have 5 main characters like Gundam Wing and Double O, but it also allows me to appreciate the nuances of these anime I'm unfamiliar with, by not shoving a bunch of characters I don't care about down my throat all at once. I'm still not a big fan of Zabongo or anything, but I can appreciate them as members of my party when I don't have to deal with a bunch of subpar characters. Other big changes include the Erica 7 cast being replaced with their movie counterparts, something I'm kind of indifferent to anyways, and the Nagai series being replaced with their modern counterparts. As a result, the Great Majingar and Grendizer are unfortunately dropped. Now, calm down guys, we still have Shin Majingar and Get a Robo Armageddon.
Done!
Jeez, nothing will satisfy you guys. Listen, I can appreciate the original TV series, but guys, it's time to move on and appreciate these modern interpretations. For one thing, I really like the new Koji and Ryoma and their new actors. I mean, Ishimaru Hiroya was good, but let's face it, he does a better Jackie than he does a young robot pilot. And while I will miss Kamiya Akira, I also love how the new Ryoma is completely over the top. Also, don't forget guys, these characters and mechs are more closely based on the original manga than even the old TV series. Most of all, I love Shin Majingar and Getter Robo. For instance, here's what the old Majingar's ultimate attack is. Okay, and here's Shin Majingar's ultimate attack, the Photon Beam, which in any other game would have been one of the weaker attacks. Jesus. So yeah, this roster that used to be one of my least favorites in this franchise has actually skyrocketed up to like 2nd place. It's still not quite as good as the legendary roster from Alpha 3, but give it time folks, give it time. To add to the reasons why you don't need to play the first game in order to get into this one, the Banpresto originals from that game don't appear here. Oh sure, they're mentioned a few times here, but we won't actually see them return until the next game. Now of course, while I did kind of like them, I always like to see new characters take up the helm in each of these games. And in this one we've got a great new guy named Crow. He's basically the robot anime equivalent of the titular lead of Hayate the Combat Butler. Although the first season did have an awesome Grand Login parody, but that's beside the point. Like the unfortunate butler, his father left him with a huge debt that he has to pay. In spite of this hardship though, he does keep a great upbeat attitude and does try to help everyone he can, while paying off his father's debt. He actually gets roped up into the events of this game where he ends up piloting a real robot called Brasta to fight off the new bad guys of these games. The creator of the mech agrees to pay off his debts in exchange for becoming Brasta's pilot. One of the funniest aspects of the game is the counter at the bottom of the screen that shows how much more money Crow owes. It in no way connects with the actual gameplay, so no matter how many playthroughs you go through and how much money you build up, the counter never reaches zero by the end of the game. Ew, poor guy. In general, Crow is probably one of my favorite Banpresto original characters. The only problem here is the fact that he's the only Banpresto original character who I can enjoy in this one. Yeah, remember how I complained in my Super Robot Taisen W review about how there was only one main character throughout the most of the game? Yeah, it's actually worse here because, at least in that game, the main character had his entire family backing him up from a spaceship. Here, poor Crow is on his own and doesn't even get any major upgrades throughout this game. Well, sure, he gains new attacks, but nothing happens that increases his stats dramatically or converts his mech into a super robot like it does in W. Just stuck with the Brasta for most of the game, though admittedly it does look pretty damn cool. Though, as such, replay value does suffer if you can't change up the characters and mechs. Still, branching story arcs do make multiple playthroughs worthwhile, just not as much as Alpha 3 or even MX. Still, you'll want to fill up your scenario chart for reasons I'll get into in the next review. Probably the most notable change this game has made to its gameplay since the last one is the removal of the tri-battle system. Now, some were disappointed by this, but if you saw my last review, you can guess my reaction.
Yay!
No, a bit more than that. Yeah! Closer.
Thank you! Thank you all the hell!
Yeah, let's go with that. Point is, I do appreciate the fact that gimmicky tri-battle system is gone. On that subject, this game also spruces up a lot of little things in the game system that together greatly improves the experience overall, I think. For instance, in any other game up until now, after you moved a unit to a space, if it's a space you didn't want them to go to, then you would have to move them back to their original space and start the whole process all over again. Here, you can continue to move them around until you find just the right space. Also in previous games you had to activate your spirit commands before you selected an enemy to attack. Here they allow you to activate a command right before you finalize the attack. These two little changes may not seem like much at first, but believe me, they were a godsend as they saved me a lot of frustrating backtracking. Other new additions to the system is the sub-order system, which is an innovation that actually makes a lot of sense and is very helpful, unlike certain other so-called innovations. In between stages, you can actually develop characters that you didn't use in the previous battle. You can give them more experience points, raise their kill count, or even have them earn money for you. It's great because no matter what, there's always going to be those characters that you just can't fit into your main roster, but you know are going to be useful on down the line. Also, being able to raise kill count has become a very important aspect in this game. For you see, this game now includes a significant bonus for characters who achieve the rank of Ace after killing a significant number of enemies. Ace bonuses in the previous games have been a fairly negligible +5 to the character's morale. Morale being what's needed to perform stronger attacks. Here, the requirement to reach the rank of Ace has been raised from 50 to 70, but in exchange now every character gains a unique extra benefit. Interestingly enough, many of them are reflective of the character's personality and fighting style. For instance, when Hiro Yui becomes an Ace, he gains an evasion and movement bonus to support his hit and run fighting style. In Crow's case, his Ace bonus guards him 25% more money when he defeats an enemy. Unfortunately for him, that money doesn't go to paying his death, but oh well. Similarly, the mechs they pilot also gain special bonuses when they're fully upgraded. In the case of the Grand Long Gun, it can prevent itself from being destroyed once per battle with just 10 HP. Again, something very reflective of the anime it's based off of. I love this new bonus system as it both gives a reason to focus on leveling up certain characters over others, and even connects with the anime they're based off of, so it generates an even stronger feeling of immersion, gives the player the sense that they're truly playing a crossover of these great mecha anime. Utilizing these bonuses is quite essential as there is a certain enemy type that becomes very maddening after a while. Yeah, while the game's difficulty curve is far more balanced than it was in the last game, the Dimensional Beasts do produce some very significant difficulty spikes. For reference, imagine a combination of the Hawks from Ninja Gaiden, the Medusa heads from Castlevania, and the Tentacles from Gen 1 Pokemon, and put them on steroids and you get these Super Sentai rejects. On their own, they're not much of a challenge, but when they start attacking in droves, you better make sure you have no walls nearby and have plenty of pillows surrounding you, because chances are you're going to be throwing your PSP all over the place. For enemies that are supposed to just be foot soldiers, they have very decent stats, can produce barriers, can regenerate their HP and MP, and worst of all, they inflict status elements. They'll usually target your stronger units like the super robots who have lower evasion to inflict these ailments on, like loss of energy, which is something very important to a super robot. They don't completely ruin the game, but believe me, by the end you'll be crossing your fingers hoping that they won't appear in the next stage. Still, it does at least kind of balance out thanks to those bonuses I mentioned earlier, as well as some very useful pilot skills. Yeah, I never really mentioned pilot skills in my previous reviews even though they've been in the games, mostly because they never were all that useful in the long run up until now. While certain characters have innate skills like say Seed, U-Type, or Spiral Power that improve their stats and are exclusive to certain characters, there are also purchasable skills. By far the most useful one introduced in this game is Continuous Action, which allows you to make an extra move should you defeat an enemy while having high morality. So it does even out the playing field, though I do wish that certain units were a little bit stronger, like for instance, Turn A for some reason forgot its ultimate attack after the last game. So overall, the gameplay does feel balanced, just with a few hiccups here and there, but otherwise it's hard for me to actually complain. To me, this is the game I wanted to play on the PS2. Amazing battle animations, especially considering the hardware, an amazing roster of characters that's only going to get better in the next installments, a very memorable main character, and lastly and most importantly, well-balanced and thought-out gameplay. Yes, while I had problems with the Dimensional Beasts, in the long run they're just minor gripes. And unlike certain other gameplay mechanics that we'll not go mention, Tri-Battle system, it feels like the new systems here are actually quite well put together and innovative. Heck, it almost feels like these systems should have been here before we reached the 20th anniversary. Again, it's not perfect what with the Dimensional Beast and how blatantly it expresses the fact that it's the middle game by advertising the next game after you've beaten it. Seriously, I'd prefer not to see sequel baiting in my video games. That's something that's meant for the old 80s movies.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
But still, as it stands, I give it 4 out of 5.
君は聞こえる僕のこの声が
Oh, come on, Loki. The Hulk can't be that strong. Hey, are you the one they call the Incredible Hulk? I take that as a yes. You're a lot bigger than we imagine. Still, we challenge you to an arm wrestling competition. Let's see what you've got. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3! Okay, you're a lot stronger than we imagine. Also...